council meeting. We'll be back as soon as we can.
Not sure it's any better.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice to have you today.
Hello, everybody. I apologize for the delay. Welcome back. The first thing on our agenda is presentation regarding the site plan review for 49 Clinton. So who's ever here to speak on that, please come to the microphone and identify yourself.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jacqueline Cohen. I'm an associate at the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. I'm here tonight in place of Brad Schwartz from my firm, who had another conflict and could not be here this evening. Here with me tonight is Andy Schneider, the CFO from Masters. I have Jen Olson from Marvel and Peter Rader from JLL. And also, who should be joining us on Zoom is Caroline France from Marvel as well as, I believe, some folks from Woodard and Curran. The project engineers will be joining on Zoom as well. So we're here tonight because the Masters School is proposing improvements to their Strayer Hall building. And Marvel will take you through the plans to show you what Masters is proposing for the space. But we do believe that these improvements are rather minor in nature, and because of the minor scope, we are asking that your board waive your jurisdiction over site plan review this evening. On a separate matter, we have also submitted a concept plan for additional on-site parking. And so this plan was developed as a result of discussions with village staff and was where staff raised concerns that the village had over parking along Clinton Avenue. So staff did encourage us to submit a concept plan for parking. We do note that this concept plan is not a part of the Strayer Hall improvements application that is before you tonight because the parking lot is not related to the Strayer Hall improvements specifically. It is just to help address that parking, what the village perceived to be a parking issue along Clinton Avenue. And there is nothing in the Strayer Hall improvements that would trigger the need for additional parking. They're not expanding the footprint of the building. They're not adding any additional students to the space, so they're not intensifying the use. And the intent here is really to just open discussion with your board about the parking, and if you would like us to pursue the site plan application process for the parking plan, we would be happy to do so on a separate track from the site plan application for the Strayer Hall improvements.
So just so I'm clear, the parking, the 31 parking spots, you're saying is a separate plan from what you're presenting before us tonight?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Even though it's mentioned in the letter, and even though it's part of it, you're saying we should entertain it as two different projects, right?
Yes, so we had submitted, and we understand there was some confusion over the two. So we submitted the parking plan as more of a concept plan for discussion purposes to show that Masters has explored the option of adding additional parking on site and is willing to proceed with the approval to do so if your board finds that is necessary. However, because of the timing for the Strayer Hall improvements, they did want to proceed with the application for the building permit and to move forward with the Strayer Hall improvements and then pursue the site plan for parking separately.
So is the outdoor performance space also separate from what you're asking? That's part of the Strayer Hall?
That's part of it. And actually, I'll turn over to Jen just to take you through what is part of the Strayer Hall improvements.
Don't actually know. Sure. So, as you can see here, this is the Masters property within the E1, the EI zoning district. This yellow rectangle is Strayer Hall, located in the middle of the campus. You can see over here, this black rectangle is the distance apart that the parking is from the Strayer Hall project. So there is quite a distance between them. This is the site plan, landscape plan of the Strayer Hall project that we're proposing. And as you can see, there is this performance patio that is a replacement. I'll show you the demolition elevation in a minute, but this is a replacement patio over top of what was a ramp in its place currently. And then the work on the exterior also involves, I'm being very delicate because this mouse is very sensitive, also involves making all the entrances into the building accessible. They're currently inaccessible situations, and so we're resloping the grade to make all 3 of the entrances into the building have a accessible entrance. So, and then there is related waterproofing work around these 3 facades of the building, starting here, working all the way around here. And so that is the extent of the disruption of the site that will be happening in order to take out the ramp, put this patio in, and then make all 3 of these entrances accessible. On the elevation, you can see here, this is the existing ramp that leads you down into that lower level. It's not an accessible ramp, it's actually a service ramp. And so it's not an accessible entrance or exit from the building. And so they would rather have these doors open out onto this performance patio that you see here, so that you kind of extend the classroom to this central quad space outside of that instructional room here. Other work that we're doing is just replacing all the windows. The windows are all single pane metal frames, so we're putting in insulated aluminum windows, replacing in kind, as well as replacing the entrance storefront with, again, insulated systems there. Other facades of the building, similarly, window replacement. This is a picture of that existing inaccessible condition that we're improving here by resloping the grade. You can see it at this door here as well, resloping the grade to make it accessible.
I don't want to rush you along, but just, we understand as far as
Sure.
making things more accessible, that's fine. But we are concerned, and I have some notes here, that you're adding some impervious surface. I think it's, according to my notes, about 1,300 square feet of more impervious surface. So can you address that?
Yeah, if I go back, no problem. If I go back, this, I think, all said, this is an extension of about 1,300 square feet. We will be doing stormwater retention with below-grade tanks in this grassy area here. So we will be offsetting, we will be balancing the stormwater management with those tanks that will be below here.
So currently that spot is grassy area, or is?
Currently, that is grassy area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
This
that's-
is just this footprint is slightly larger than the ramp that is there right now, which is what makes it the 1,300 extra.
So there's a ramp there now.
There's a ramp there now. But it's not an accessible ramp. It's a utility. It's a service
It's a
ramp.
net increase of 1,300 impervious square feet.
That's right. These walkways are all existing. This entrance patio here is all existing. This is all existing. Resloped.
And of course, if you were to waive your jurisdiction tonight, this plan would still be subject to village review by building and engineering as well to ensure that everything is accounted for.
Thoughts as far as waiving our site plan review?
Well, I have a question. You've got the parking piece of this as a separate project. The parking piece of it, I think, is important, not necessarily given just the renovations that you want to do to Strayer Hall. But as you know, we've gone to Masters in the past and asked for a parking mitigation plan, which you've acknowledged in the letter to ease the clogged conditions on Clinton. Is there, an assurance that you guys are bringing to us that there will be a parking project, even if separate from this?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were to waive your jurisdiction tonight in that approval, there, you could set a condition that that Masters pursue that site plan application for the parking.
And if we were to not waive our site plan approval, are you making that project contingent on our waiving approval?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. Masters is committed to working with the village to alleviate concerns that the village has had. And Masters has worked to create this plan and is intending to pursue it if your board states that you wish that that is what you want Masters to do. And by adding the condition, it just kind of adds that further protection for you that it will be.
Dan, what do you think about, I mean, it's not, I was under the impression that this was tied together in one project, but if it's separate, and it just seems to be, the rest of it seems to be fairly straightforward, could we waive it with the condition that the 31 parking spot be subject to our review?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'd make it condition upon that this has to be part of the done prior to the issuance of the CO for the property. A condition of building permit, I think that building department. Yeah,
Strayer Hall.
so it would be tied together at least. Is there a reason that the whole project isn't here at once? The park, with the parking component?
Well, I mean, like Jacqueline said, they're very disparate locations, and this is a waterproofing and accessibility upgrade to the building. We are doing some interior upgrades as well, but it's not generating new students, it's not generating new curriculum, they're very different, and so really the parking is to alleviate the concerns that the village has expressed to Masters.
It's also a matter of timing. So Masters is hoping to renovate the Strayer Hall building, they're going to have to take the building out of commission for students while they're renovating it. So to avoid leaving the building out for longer than they would have to, they did, want to pursue the Strayer Hall building permit renovations first, and then come back to the parking.
And just so I'm clear, Dan, if we waive our involvement, this still has to go before the planning board, where the planning board has to be satisfied with regard to the impervious surfaces and the storage of the water, the drainage, those issues would still be addressed by the planning board?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, then, if we could just then make it as a condition that the parking get before the CO gets granted, that this parking gets addressed by us in a site plan, then I would be, I think, okay with waiving the site plan if that's the situation.
I'd like to suggest that parking remediation on Clinton be the condition, and to which 31 parking spaces on what I believe is already a parking lot is, maybe a factor in that, but we had asked that Masters develop a parking mitigation plan, of which more parking spots is not necessarily the only component. Reducing trips to the school may be another component. So I'd like to think of it more holistically as a condition that Masters satisfactorily develop a parking mitigation plan in collaboration with the village.
And how would you feel about that?
We can certainly explore it. I know that Masters will, explore with the village what sort of mitigation is necessary. I know that also Clinton Avenue, it's not all students parking on there. So we can certainly explore it. And we can put forth a plan that will help alleviate the issues that,
Nobody's trying to be unreasonable. I'm not trying to. I
Right.
can't speak for
What I
anybody
was,
else.
what I was going to suggest, if you want an adjournment on this, so you could consult with your client and discuss how much you want to commit to that, you can do that as well. That's totally up to you guys, or, you could hammer it out with our lawyers, and if you can't reach an agreement, then we'll just address this some other time, right?
Yeah, the concern I have is making that happen with the parking. If there isn't a commitment, or if it's not written into one of the approvals, or even this waiver, how does the village, how do we know it's going to happen? If you're not committing to it.
well, if you put, are you saying if you were not to put it as a condition? Or if
No,
you were to put it as a
what would
condition?
what do I make it a condition to?
So you could, you can make it a condition saying, for example, that, we submit a building permit for the parking application within, a certain amount of time, and that we diligently pursue.
Right, and then we revoke your building permit? I mean, what's the carrot here? For the
Sorry,
village?
Wait, I'm sorry, could you just clarify
So
your question?
I guess I'm asking, we want to be able to have this condition that's viable. And if you're saying, well, we're not sure if we're going to give you a parking plan going forward.
Well, the condition would state that we submit an application with the parking plan, with a more, with stormwater and more, it's not fully,
Right.
it's just a concept.
And what if you don't? I'm not being argumentative, I just want to make sure that the board understands
I'm
that
not
there are
sure,
limits to what you're offering.
right. I'm sure there's some enforcement mechanism. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head.
Well, that would seem necessary to have that written into the condition if we're going to, if you're asking us for a waiver and proposing that we add a condition, that condition is going to need to be enforceable in some way. Otherwise, it's not really a condition.
Can we say something that's, the plan must be submitted within, I don't know, whatever it is, 20 days from today, and if not,
Well, it's not even a plan. I mean, it's the completion of work. A plan doesn't imply that the plan is
so
followed.
you want more than a plan?
I want an assurance that there will be a
Or before
parking
the
mitigation.
before the CO will be granted for the first project, we would have to tie it to that.
Right, but is that tied to construction of the, implementation of a parking plan? I shouldn't say construction because it's not necessarily only construction, but implementation of a parking mitigation plan is the trigger for the CO, rather than just opening a permit or intending to open a permit?
Dan, what have you seen? What do you suggest? Dan, you may have some input on that as well. You want to come on, come up so we can hear you. Just tell us, everybody, who you are.
I think you'd be able to.
Who are you?
Dan Romer, building.
What's your job
inspector.
title?
I think they can make it a condition of approval of the CO that they submit a parking mitigation plan before the CO is issued.
I think trustee
I don't-
Rosenberg was
I'm-
saying he wants more than.
Yeah, more than a plan, I want there to be the implementation of a
Or a condition that an application submitted and it's in front of the boards.
Still, an application does
approved,
not
if there
imply,
could-
even an improved application does not imply that it's actually going to be built. Like, what I'm looking for is an assurance that a separate project called parking
Understood.
mitigation is actually accomplished and not just left to wither.
We'll then put a condition that it's completed before, or at least started the construction even. I don't think.
I'm fine with the word
Masson's gonna
implemented,
start
that it has been implemented.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's satisfactory.
I just have a question about that, because it's, what you said before was that the issue, some of the issues are cars coming in and out, so that doesn't really, that's not parking.
Right, implementation of a parking mitigation plan, which
Would
may
be
or may
cars
not
going in and out?
be limited to construction of parking spaces. It may have other components.
Mm-hmm.
If one of those things is you know, and I'm just off the top of my head here, this isn't necessarily a practical suggestion, but that Masters implement, you know, twice-a-day bus service to some other pickup point. That would have to be, you know, something that Masters has agreed to and, you know, and signed paper on. Like that, there's a plan doesn't have to be something that is asphalt. It just needs to be something that has, it's been done or it hasn't been done.
But I'm asking to affect what? To get more parking or to get less traffic?
Both. I mean, both things are part of a.
It's more of a vehicular.
I mean, this is the reason that when Valerie wrote the memo to us, she thought that the parking lot was included in the plan because it was confusing to us. And so she recommended that we not waive site plan because the parking lot is not a minor change to the site and would require a lot more thought and implementation
Correct.
and policy from us. So I'm concerned about tying it together because I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Right.
But I'm also concerned about not having the parking at at Masters addressed.
Well, I would say my inclination normally with something that relates to Masters, because of the scale of Masters, the presence in the village, that this board, even if it's a perfunctory review, should be involved in the site plan. But maybe something like that would solve the problem, because you could come back with something more concrete and be able to get, you know, in front of this board, and we'd be able to just solve it if you had some more time to put something together with respect to the parking, as well as, obviously, this renovation.
Yeah, to us, the parking lot is very, and the parking, and the plan is outlined by trustee Rosenberg is very important to us. So maybe it would be better, since in essence, we are going to tie it together, that we do tie it together and we keep it ourselves. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, if we were to keep review, that would allow us all to get together again, for you guys to explain things, as opposed to trying to ask you to come up, you and Dan to come up with something on the fly here. And then, and I don't think in general, this is a particularly complex or controversial project. I think the review is perfunctory. It just, but again, you know, there's a perception thing too, that we need to be, because of Masters' presence, we need to be, you know, the board needs to have demonstrated we looked at it.
Right, absolutely. And we certainly do not want to come up with anything on the fly. And we would like to keep the two applications separate, just because, you know, they are two separate things. We understand that the parking is important. We recognize that, that is important to your board, and we are going to address it. So it might make sense for us to go back and, you know, figure, you know, kind of flesh out the parking a bit more. They would like clarity on, if there were a condition to waiver, specifically, what would you be comfortable with in terms of parking for you to waive your jurisdiction for the Strayer Hall?
Well, that's not a fair question, because we're only just getting this. Like, it presumes that we have had an opportunity to think that through, and that's not the case.
I have a question, though. I mean, it seems like the alterations that you want to make it more accessible and stuff, are you trying to get that done before school starts in September?
Including the work on the interior, we're trying to get it done by September 25.
Right.
So not September 24.
Okay, so
but
time is of the essence for that,
with this.
for the
That's
students,
right.
so.
That's right. And
I
we're
mean-
trying to affect one school year, not two school years.
2025.
Right, right, but I'm saying it's a big, I mean, accessibility is a big issue.
It is,
It's-
we're-
Right,
As we'll
I
submit
don't want
the,
to hold that up over parking, personally. You know,
You're talking about September of 2025.
Right.
Okay.
including the work that's happening on the interior. And we're preparing to submit for building permit as soon as we can.
Right.
As soon as we can.
So do you want to come back with something, or do you want us to make a decision now? Because I think, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, I do think maybe it would be better for us than to keep it, just so we could watch it from both sides. But if you want to, you know, come back next time with and work it out in between with the lawyers, then maybe we can do that. It's up to you guys.
Thank you. 2 minutes, you can do a
No.
teaching.
Sorry.
actually swearing DJ.
See.
He's outside.
Did I misread it? Did Valerie misread it? Yeah, just leave it right.
So we would like to still keep them separate. I think we will come back to your board, to your next meeting, and we will come back with more information on the parking so that we can, keep these two separate and make sure that your board is comfortable with keeping them separate.
Okay. And I would suggest that in the interim, you work it out with you come back with your proposals to the attorney could then bounce it off of us, and then we'll both be prepared on next time.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you want to, Chief, do you want to bring in, whoa.
Yeah, he's resigning from deputy treasurer, he's gonna be a policeman. Village here.
So the first appointment is to consider a resolution to accept the resignation of Dennis Bruciani as deputy treasurer. I think we have an email from him where he is offering his resignation. So is there a motion to accept the resignation of Dennis J. Bruciani as deputy treasurer with the Village of Dobbs Ferry as of effective August 12, 2024? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? Resignation is hereby accepted.
We'll miss you.
You're taking a big chance because now you have no job. Technically, you don't have a job. Appointment number 2 is to consider a resolution to appoint Dennis J. Bruciani as police officer in the Village of Dobbs Ferry. How many people go from village treasurer to police officer? I don't think that's ever happened. You are the first one. So, is there a motion to appoint Dennis?
Budget down.
Is there a motion to appoint Dennis Bruciani as police officer in the Village of Dobbs Ferry, effective August 12, 2024? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor. That hereby passes. You are officially welcomed. So come on down. Years old. Graduated on a prep in 2009. College, graduated with a bachelor's degree in marketing and a master's degree in finance. Then he wrote his career in local government in the village of Larchmont, before coming deputy treasurer in the village of Gosford in 2021. Should I have Jeff say something?
I don't know if you want Jeff to talk right now.
Just want to say, Chief, thank you and your department for all your support through this process, for believing in me and for thinking I'm deserving of this. It's truly an honor to be chosen by you. Mayor, board, Rob, Jeff, and all my coworkers, thank you for all that you've done for me over the last 3 years. It's been a wild ride, and I look forward to working with all of you still. Mom, Dad, Danielle, Melissa, thank you for all your support and for being here today. It means everything to me, and thank you to all the family that was unable to attend. See you all in 6 months.
I just want to thank Jeff for finding an outstanding candidate for the last few years. Really,
Can you get Jeff a deputy treasurer?
really.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Appointment number 3 is I'm accepting the resignation of Robert Denab, I always pronounce it wrong.
Annabelle.
Annabelle from the Ad hoc Downtown Committee. He submitted a letter of resignation, and that's because Bob is now the head of, is the Downtown Improvement Advocate, Downtown Business Advocate, so he can't hold both positions. So we appreciate everything that he did as the co-chair of the Downtown Committee, and we're looking forward to working with him as the Downtown Advocate. So thank you, Rob. Appointment number 4, I'm announcing the appointment of Patty Steinshiner and Rachel Liebson to the Ad hoc Downtown Committee for a term of 1 year. We appreciate their volunteering, and we look forward to their input. Appointment number 5 is to a resolution, because this is a statutory board. So is there a motion to appoint Liz Okengabe as a regular member of the Conservation Board to fulfill the unexpired term of Edmund Manley, as recommended by the nominating committee? Trustee Sullivan, second trustee Patino, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Again, we thank Liz for volunteering. Number 6 appointments is to consider a resolution appointing Christy Fitzgerald as a member of the nominating committee for a term of 1 year as recommended by the nominating committee. Is there a motion to appoint Christy Fitzgerald? Trustee Galen, second trustee Rosenberg, all in favor. That passes unanimously. And appointment number 7, is there a resolution to appoint Jean Hallisey as a member of the nominating committee for a term of 1 year as recommended by the nominating committee? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Sullivan, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Next is a public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing with regard to the local law proposed amendments to Chapter 300 zoning and land use, stormwater management and erosion and sediment control? Trustee Patino, second trustee Rose and Asher, all in favor. The public hearing is now open. Dan, I know Valerie's not here. Can you shed some light on this?
That's confusing. I thought you meant down.
Dan Romer, Building Inspector. This is more cleaning up the text and some of the redundance in the code. It like repeats itself in certain areas, so it's really cleaning up the definitions and stuff. It's not too big a code change. And there's a little bit with the fences and walls, just clarifying some sections of that code.
Okay, any questions or comments for the building inspector or Dan the lawyer? Dan the lawyer, do you have anything you want to add to this?
No, I know there were some changes that were made since the last version, but I think those were all accepted.
Yeah, I just want to point out that none of the sort of policy issues we've been talking about over a number of workshops are included here. This is Valerie's housekeeping, so to speak.
Correct. There'll be more coming. This is just one part of it.
Just off the top of your head, what about the fences? What are we doing what's the change with regard to the fence?
It was like a fence on top of a wall counts as the full height of the fence. With retaining walls, the separation before in the code, it had to be separated by 5 feet to be different retaining walls. Some of that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on this? Okay, so is there a motion to amend the text of various provisions in Chapter 300 zoning?
You got to close the public hearing first.
Close the meeting. First
Mr.
of all, I'd
Mayor,
like to open up to the public. Is there anybody who has a comment on this? Come on up.
Daniel Burgess, 52 Luzerne Road. I have 2 comments, questions. One is with regards to the critical environmental areas, which it's on bottom of page 3 and page 4. It's crossed out. It's not replaced with anything. So it seems strange that to just cross it out. So I'm just wondering why that is. Okay. So I looked at the code and searched it, and I didn't see it repeated. So you might want to just double check on that. I'm not obviously not questioning you. You're the code guide. You know it, but it just seems odd that it's crossed out here. So my other question is, Trustee Patino, you mentioned that other areas are not being discussed here. My other question is in regards to net lot area on page 9. It's, the cross out is for the purpose of calculating lot area, half of the area of the lot, with slopes measuring 25 or greater, and so on. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about steep slopes, and you've suggested to change that. With concern about that with some residents, it seems, ought to have it crossed out here. And I guess my question is it being replaced, or does this cross out mean, does it make it easier to build on steep slope? Thank you.
Mike, can you comment on that or no?
Yeah, I mean, we have had an ongoing conversation about a revised approach to building on steep slopes. I have, there was a little bit of opposition at the planning board for a more well-defined code section on some aspects of this. And I just haven't come to an agreement with them about that. And I'm hoping to do that soon. I'm at a little bit of a roadblock. But the intention of that revised steep slope code is not to arbitrarily reduce property owners' right to develop, it's to disincentivize building on steep slopes, right? The intention is better protection for slopes, not the opposite. And I think anyone who reads it clearly, that is what our intention is, and that is what what it says. I think there's some confusion or some debate at the planning board about how well or otherwise they can implement it.
So are we doing
So it
anything?
is here, crossed out, it is intended to be addressed. I was hoping that would have been addressed many months ago, but I don't have agreement with everyone.
I think this language crossed out reflects the way the code is being interpreted at the moment. Is that correct?
That's correct, but this is also, these are definitions, right? Like
Right.
this chapter is part of a chapter of definitions. So it's not, there's much more to it than this one section.
And I think also it seems like the removal of these specifics doesn't change the implication of the definition, right? Like whatever additional reductions pursuant to this chapter exist elsewhere in the code.
That's right. So a lot of
Removing the
these things that are.
specifics from this definition don't change the implication that whatever the existing reductions are, if they're now the sort of older version and will one day be the newer version, it is still subject to whatever the reductions are. So it's a sort of redundant definition that will be cleaned up anyway, so may as well clean it up now. And it has no implications for building at the moment. Is that correct? Those definitions are elsewhere.
Yeah, so there's a number of things in this section that are redundant in other sections
Right.
or contradictory or otherwise confusing. So if a definition here contradicts a code section elsewhere, that thing is being cleaned up here. And I wish we had Valerie here to explain, to go through each point. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it tonight, but this has been an ongoing process. I don't think there's anything, like I mentioned, there's nothing policy-oriented in this approval for this change to the code. There are policy questions that I'm interested in that we probably share opinions about, and I'm hoping that those come very soon.
Okay, so, and Dan, I don't know if you had a chance to review this, but are you in agreement that we're not changing anything from a policy point by doing this, by passing this resolution?
Right, and I think trustee Patino was correct on that in his review.
Okay, is there anybody else from the public who has any comments on that? Is there anybody else on? No? Okay, so is there a motion to close tonight's public hearing? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? Public hearing is hereby closed. So I think we have a resolution, and I started to read it, but. Let me just find it again. So is there a motion to amend Chapter 300 zoning and land use and Chapter 262 stormwater management and erosion and sediment control of the Dallas Ferry Code to provide for clarification and eliminate repetitive, redundant, and vague terms in the text as outlined in the law, the draft of the law submitted? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? Okay, so that passes unanimously. Okay, next is courtesy of the floor. Before anyone comes up, I just see that people are here for the Knoll. We did receive your petition, obviously, for a moratorium for the village or regarding building in the village. That is a very serious legal matter. When we did receive that request and the petition, I did reach out to our village attorney. I asked our village attorney to perform research on this matter, and the attorney advises me that they are still researching the matter. It's, has wide-ranging implications, and we are also working with our attorney to review our options with regard to this situation. However, to be quite frank, our village options may be limited. We will have a response for you. Dan, you can just confirm this. We should have a response within 2 weeks?
Yes.
Okay, I know it's going before the planning board, August 1st or 2nd, right? So, but I know it's not before us, but you did come to us with a request for a moratorium, and like I said, it is a serious legal matter, and so we have, the village attorneys are doing all the research on the issue, and we will explore all our other options, if any, for the, that the Board of Trustees has. So, having said that, if you want to come on up, you're certainly welcome to do so.
Yes, my name is Robert Barbera, 66 Luzerne Road. I've written, it's regarding a little bit about the knoll, but a little bit different perspective. I've written the board, the trustees, and the planning board on several occasions have never received a response. I've been a resident of Dobbs Ferry for over 35 years. I have never gone through kind of the planning process, so I'm not sure what the process is, but I'm very concerned that the letters that we receive as neighbors around the development are clearly sending wrong information to the people that are receiving these letters. So, for example, the first letter we received at the end of March said that there was going to be development in Knoll with an existing private paper street. There is not an existing private paper street in the Knoll. I expressed this concern to the boards. I've received no response, and at the time I requested that the board push to have a new letter sent out with the right information to the neighbors that received this letter. Now I receive another letter from Hillside Construction, and this letter says there is going to be an emergency turnaround within an existing paper street. We all know that in 2005, the paper streets were demapped. There is no paper street in the Knoll. So I'm not sure how these letters go out with misinformation. Does the building board look at these? I know that they provide their plans when they submit, but who from the village is looking at and making sure the information that is being distributed to the neighbors is accurate and correct? We're getting misinformation, and both times I expressed my concern and asked that accurate information be sent out with these letters to the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hello?
Trustees, thank you. I appreciate the comments that you made earlier, but for the record, I just want to.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Andy Roberto. I live at 56 Luzerne Road in Dobbs Ferry. For the record, just want to review a letter that I sent to you guys by email a few days ago. Excuse me, I believe on the 20th. I'm writing as a member of the Protect the Knoll group with a request for a response to a petition that was read aloud with copies issued of the Board of Trustees meeting held on May 28, 2024. Excuse me. No response has been issued regarding the petition, the request for a moratorium on the planning for and development of the DMAP paper street in the area called the Knoll. Although mention of consideration of the petition was noted by the village administrator, manager Robert Yamuder, thank you, in an article in the Hudson Independent on June 4th. As the village of Dobbs Ferry is in the process of updating the current vision plan, it is even more important to recognize the need to support the request for a moratorium on the planning or development of the Knoll. The historical, ethical, and environmental aspects that surround the potential land development that will in part be addressed in the research for the vision plan update. No planning for the development of the Knoll should be considered before the completion of this study. There are now over 300 Dobbs Ferry citizens awaiting a response from the village regarding the petition request for a moratorium on the planning and development of the Knoll. We would kindly request an open and substantive response and hope that the village is open to working with the concerned residents in maintaining a healthy and hospitable environment for all of us to live in. I believe that you are all seriously concerned about the welfare of Dobbs Ferry, and I hope that we can work together to resolve this issue.
Thank you. Anybody else?
David Santini, 104 Briary Road. As I said, my name is David Santini, and I live at 104 Briary Road. I'm a member of the citizens group known as Protect the Knoll. My inquiry tonight has to do with title reports that were required to be produced by the developer, Andrew Cortese, by the planning board during his presentation before the board on September 9th, 2021, at which time he first presented a development proposal on the former paper street in Dobbs Ferry known as the Knoll. During that meeting, the planning board, at the direction of attorney Lori Lee Dixon, informed Mr. Cortese that before any consideration of constructing a village street or private driveway could proceed, he would have to produce certified title reports for all the lots on the knoll that might be affected by his proposal in order to determine if the deeds to those lots would permit such construction. Over the last few months, several members of our Protect the Knoll group have asked via FOIL requests for the village to provide the results of those title searches, but none have been produced. I personally submitted a FOIL request on May 28th of this year, in which I specifically asked for those title report documents, among others. I finally received 2 sets of results from my FOIL request, one each on July 15th and 16th. When I saw that the title search documents were not part of the that those documents were still missing, when I saw that the title search documents were not part of the village's response to my request, I informed Village Clerk Draper that those documents were still missing. She checked with the building department and was told that because Mr. Cortese never proceeded to pursue the approval of his initial 2021 Knoll development proposal, he never submitted the title searches. Which brings me to why I am speaking tonight. A revised development proposal for the Knoll will be shortly presented by Andrew Cortese to the planning board during their August 1st meeting. If the village is indeed in possession of certified title reports provided by Mr. Cortese or one of his companies to support this revised proposal, then I respectfully request that they be provided to me. During your November 28th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting, Attorney Dixon confirmed that title reports become public records once they are submitted to the planning board to support a development proposal. So there is no reason that they should not be provided to me. On the other hand, if, as Ms. Draper shared, they have never been produced by the developer, then it stands to reason that any proposal that Mr. Cortese submits before the planning board for development on the Knoll cannot be considered by the planning board until such title searches are provided. This fact was specifically confirmed by Attorney Dixon during that same November 28th meeting. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and as always, for your selfless service to the village.
Thank you.
Good evening, Alan Harris, 39 Rochambeau Avenue. Monty Python used to say, and now for something completely different. So I would like to address resolution number 6. Consider a resolution to award the bid for the sidewalk project on Walgrove Avenue and Washington Avenue in the amount of $253,200. Am I correct? Does that include putting a sidewalk on Washington Avenue between Belden and Maple?
I believe, yes, it does.
Okay. So I would like to argue that you carve that block out and that you not award the bid for that sidewalk project. Specifically, I know at least one of you has walked that block and looked at it as I have. And Dobbs Ferry has a history, unfortunately, of cutting down a lot of trees. I am admittedly a tree hugger, and I am here speaking on behalf of the trees and the residents of those trees and the residents of the soil beneath those trees. I don't understand why you are going to cut down 6 mature, healthy trees in order to put a sidewalk on that block. My understanding is that the reason is pedestrian safety. And I would argue that this is a solution in search of a problem. There isn't a problem. The sidewalk is going to end at the next block anyway. Presumably, and please correct me if I'm wrong, once you get to the country club, the golf course is not going to have a sidewalk. Is that correct?
At this
As of
time.
now, yes.
As of now, okay. So stop the presses. You know, there's no reason to cut down these trees. I argued against cutting down, trees that were more than 100 years old in order to put in the artificial turf field at the high school. Lost that battle, fair enough. I argued, when they wanted to put a track on the other side of the aqueduct behind the high school, we won that one. And then came, downtown and the cutting down of the trees on Main Street. And, this woman, Kathy Dean, and a number of people in this village have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to save trees. They hired an arborist, and they came to an agreement with the village that perhaps they could save 5 trees, just 5 trees on Main Street. And then just before the construction started, they were notified, nope, we spoke to the construction people, those 5 trees are not going to be saved either. And so they got, chopped down as well. Replacing trees doesn't solve the problem. These are healthy, mature trees. This is soil. It absorbs water. You're putting on an impermeable surface. I just don't think it makes any sense. So that's why I'm here to argue against it. Full disclosure, I have 2 friends who live on that corner. I am not here on their behalf, and I'm not here because they're my friends. I'm here because this is something I truly believe in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yair Rosenkrantz, 120 Beld. Mayor, members of the board, trustees. I am about the same issue that Alan Harris just presented, which is the motions to install a sidewalk on the block I live on the corner of Washington Avenue and Belden. And again, we don't see, I'm all for safety trees, of course. Some time ago, we worked with the tree committee, the engineers, some trustees, even with other people concerned with these issues. All my block is surprised and disappointed that no one knows what's going to happen, if they're going to remove those trees. Those trees are beautiful, mature trees, some more, some less, but we don't see the issue. That since I've been living for years and years on the street, we had no one incident of safety. You better save the trees, reduce the speed, put a stop sign, save the trees, or as I remember discussing with the trustees and the village engineer about landscaped schemes on how to deal with a safe sidewalk, and also achieving saving the trees. It's not only about the trees, it's about the character, the context, and the regards to the opinion of the people that live there, not only us. They are my neighbors, my friends. It's like we are all neighbors, we are all friends, and we are your constituents as well. So just please, I don't know what's going to happen. It's been surprising because somehow I was led to believe that I will be, the plans for the sidewalk will be shared with us, and nothing happened. We regularly check the agenda. It's somehow difficult to follow if that's going to be on the agenda or not. We are surprised that today we find that this is going to be $253,000, as Alan said, an award for a contract that we don't know what it means. Please, I'll thank you for your care, and see if you can reconsider this tradition of removing trees. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up.
Radomski, Ogden Avenue. Maybe let's get the other side of this and maybe meet in the middle somewhere. On July 17th, the storm that lasted less than 5 minutes caused a power outage that lasted more than 8 hours for 600 Con Ed customers. That's over 1,000 people. One tree on private property caused this damage. We haven't had a major storm in years. Existing dead, rotten, or overgrown trees haven't been in a major storm. And any storm lasting over an hour will more than likely cause a power outage lasting days or even weeks. We need to remind residents it's their responsibility to maintain trees on their property and stop the way we restrict residents from removing overgrown, rotted, or dead trees on their property, and lessen the time and process for a permit with a more common-sense approach that safety and power reliability are the most important things our village needs to do. I don't know why I'm up here. I got another house, okay? If this ends up a mess here, we're out for a week or so, I'm gonna get on a plane, and in 4 hours, I'm sitting by the pool in an air-conditioned house. You people are gonna be floundering around looking for a flashlight to find your bathroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Pascal Ledrowlik. I run the Hastings Farmers Market and the Irvington Market and several other markets in Westchester. And I've been running markets for 17 years. And during that time, I've been approached by the Dobbs Ferry Board, different representatives over the years, asking me to please start a farmer's market in Dobbs. And I've regretfully had to say no every single time because there's just too much competition with the farmers markets so close to one another to justify and warrant it, and I just don't think it would be successful. But it has bothered me that I've not been able to create a market for you, especially since you have this extraordinary waterfront that is just waiting to be taken advantage of and really is such a draw. And so over the years, I've suggested possibly starting a vintage market instead of a farmer's market. And I haven't gotten much traction, and I haven't really pushed for it until in the last few months. There she is. I've had several conversations with Sarah, who is a vintage expert, and she and I have had long conversations about how unfortunate it is that there is no great, fantastic vintage market in Westchester. I've lived in San Francisco, I've lived in Paris, I've visited vintage markets all over the world, and this community, this county is ripe for a really quality, well-curated vintage market, and I think the Dobbs Ferry waterfront is the perfect place for it. What Sarah and I would like to do is propose 4 markets a year. Our company, we would really like to have Dobbs Ferry be really involved in this and have it be a Dobbs Ferry event. We're actually considering calling it the Wickers Creek Vintage Market after your creek. And so, yeah, I'm going to let Sarah talk to you a little bit about, I run markets, I know how to operate them, I'm an operations person, I know how to market, I know how to make them, I'm a placemaker, basically. I know how to create events that draw people and give a really strong sense of community. But I know more about food than I know about vintage, although I'm an awesome thrifter. But Sarah can tell you a little bit about the kind of vintage vendors we're trying to draw.
Sarah, you had us at vintage market, so I'm not sure if you even have to go into that much detail, because I think we all would say we're interested in it. So maybe if you can write up something like a plan and send it to us, and we can look it over, and, I mean, we're all, am I speaking out of turn here?
You're singing my song.
Right, so we all would be very interested in that in Dobbs Ferry. We're looking to make Dobbs Ferry a special place, unique. Sounds like you have something that would make us another calling card for us, so we're very interested in it. So you don't have to sell us on it yet. So if you could just send us something, more, details, we'd be open to looking at it. I mean, the only problems may be the dates and that kind of thing, but,
Yes, so just, we're going to just throw it out there. We were hoping to have our first one on September 29th, which is a week before Ferry Festa. We've looked at all the calendars, like all the big flea markets in the area are all, like 2 or 3 weeks away from that date. It's a good date for us to draw some quality vendors. So, and then we would like to start the once a season, markets next year. But we'd like to do one pop-up in the fall, if that's possible, on September 29th. We're just throwing that out there.
I don't know what our calendar shows for that date, but.
I'll have to check with Parks and Rec. I'll give you my card so you can contact us.
Okay.
They're fantastic.
But assuming there's no other like major conflict, I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see it happen that day. I just guess to just work out the logistics. So like if the question is, are we in favor of that date? The answer from me is yes. And then, hopefully we can.
We need to vote on doing that. I'm sure there are implications around public safety, et cetera, and our next meeting isn't until August 27th, if I'm not mistaken. So that would put it just a month before their proposed date.
Probably need some more time for planning. So that's why I was sort of hoping maybe we could get some kind of consensus here and so that they can start moving forward and work it out. And we have to do some formality on the 27th. We can do that, but
like authorize Rob to work it out?
Yeah,
do something like that.
I think that'd be great. We could authorize Rob and the mayor to make a decision on that date or related dates, similar dates, ones that would work. But obviously, we would need to see more detail.
Certainly, whatever questions need to be answered, however you need them answered, we can swap information and any questions and any more you want to know about it.
So
Ready to
Dan,
spend.
do I have to do a motion to?
I don't think that's necessary.
Okay.
I think you've given them and Rob some instruction. I think that's
Okay. Okay. So you work with him,
Okay.
the village administrator.
Okay.
Like I said, we're all very excited by it.
Yeah.
So we want it to work, and we're all happy to work with you to see that it's successful.
And
And you'll
can
come
I-
back 4 times a year.
Thank you so
And
much.
I would like to insinuate myself into that meeting because I have been meeting with these folks and they're really committed and they have an amazing proposal for the waterfront. So I can help some what your proposal should include. Thank you for all of your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Clothes used.
Okay, let's move to action items.
Mark.
Hi, Marcus Solis, 90 Briary Road. Just want to follow up on the question that David asked about the title searches and if that search was ever done and if they are a matter of public record. When can we expect an answer on that? It's the same question that I asked in that meeting in November.
Yeah, Mayor, may I? I don't know when the last opinion was that they shouldn't be issued or distributed, but I think we've already provided those under certain FOIL requests, so we'll send them out again.
When?
Tomorrow.
What time?
Yeah, I'm surprised at that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, it's the title searches we're talking about. Yeah.
The FOIL is responded to is partially
Okay.
the doctor's note, and then follow up with as this FOIL, the FOIL response doesn't include the title information.
Okay.
And the answer was there is no title.
We'll make sure it goes out. We'll send it out tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Patty has his hand up.
Can I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Hey, Patty, what's going on?
Not too much. First, I wanted to thank you for appointing me to the downtown committee. That's a thrill. And I do love the farmers markets in both, Hastings and in Irvington, but I think this idea of a vintage market is fabulous. I think it's really great. But the main thing I wanted to comment on was the trees versus sidewalk along Washington. I was in the group that met out there, I think it's got to be more than 2 years ago, when we were talking about this. At that time, there seemed like there were some options that could be considered in terms of how to actually do that. The road in that section is a little bit wider than it is where the golf course is. So it seems like there could be a way of making that happen so that we could have a sidewalk and trees. I do agree with Mr. Radomski's concerns, but I have seen the Dobbs Ferry Tree Commission be very responsive to the idea of taking down dangerous trees. So I think, you know, the idea, I don't think these trees are those trees. I think these trees are nice, big old trees. And I think it'd be really great if we could just take a look at that and make sure that there isn't a better way to do it.
Okay, we will address that when we get to action item number 7, because I also had some questions regarding that.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Was it 7?
6.
6, sorry. So you could stay tuned, Patty, if you like, but, yeah. Okay, anybody else from courtesy of the floor? Okay. Okay, so let's move to some action items. Action item number 1 is to consider a resolution which would amend the current employment agreement with the current village administrator. He has been village administrator since July 24th, 2023. The 1 year is up. He was entered into a 1-year agreement with us, and despite what he's gone through, he still wants to come back and work another year. So we appreciate everything that he has done for us in the past year. It's been a pleasure to work with someone who's so knowledgeable and up to date on what's happening. So is there a motion to amend the employment agreement of the current village administrator, Robert Yamuda? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor? Passes unanimously. And I just want to say that we are adjusting your salary. It is going from $180,000 to $200,000, and all the other employment agreement provisions will remain unchanged and in full force and effect. So.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. If I could just say a few words, I just want to say, again, thanks for your support, and I can't believe a year flew by. I don't think I had gray hair a year ago, but as you said, it functions like a little city, and it does. So I look forward to another year of contributing and serving Dobbs Ferry to the best of my ability. And I also want to thank the hardworking staff dedicated, to doing what they do, department heads and staff alike. So again, thanks for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, stop. You want to take a picture with us?
If you
Yeah,
can.
if you can watch my beard grow every year. Thank you, yes.
Action item number 2 is to consider a resolution approving change orders for Gould Park Improvement Project. From what I understand, there's 3 change orders. Rob, do you want to briefly touch upon those 3 change orders? You know what, I'll just do it. Change order number 1 is to include the replacement of the existing stone culvert due to its poor structural condition, which would mitigate conflict with the existing underground utilities. That led to an increased price of $78,124.70. Change order number 2 involved the installation of new sod and an irrigation system around the pool area, and a temporary chain link safety fence around the pool as mandated by the New York State Department of Health. This helped ensure that the pool would open on time. That led to an increased cost of $76,328.44. And change order number 3 encompassed the furnishing and installation of sod, a complete irrigation system, 2 electrical outlets, and a water service line and bottle filling station near the basketball court. And that as a result of that request, it was an increased price of $135,133. So that increases the total contract value to $2,543,792.34. So is there a motion to approve these change orders as I just outlined it? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Sullivan, all in favor. That passes unanimously. And Rob, I know you already agreed to your new contract that hasn't been signed yet, so tell me, when is this going to be finished?
I have till tomorrow to tell you. We had a meeting on site today, and we discussed that. We're looking to get the remaining items installed by mid-August as a final. We had some holdup regarding some of the fences, which, if it doesn't come in the second week of August, we're still going to have the chain link fence up there, the perimeter fence. The railings are going in next week with the additional sod and other irrigation. But the contractor indicated we're looking at August 15th as a closure date, or complete the contract.
Okay, we'll hold that to you, hold you to it. It's only gonna get worse from here on in. Are we doing action item number 3? What did we decide to do on the cameras? We're going to authorize it, but have it come out of the grant, right? So are we amending that? Dan, we're going to approve it, but we want the money to come from a grant that had been previously awarded, not from the budget.
We just say that.
Okay, just say that.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to authorize the village administrator to sign and execute an agreement with Strategium Security for maintenance and repair of existing village-wide security cameras in the amount of $89,696.97 to come out of previously awarded grants? Trustee Rosen-Asher, second.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's just one whereas we wanted to add because as it came in, as of this discussion about an hour ago, if I can add one more whereas, because it is a state grant, we wanted to make sure we reflect in the record the actual budget item, the budget code. So I would just add whereas the funding of the maintenance and repair of the existing village-wide security cameras was not included in the 24-25 budget. The following budget amendment is required to increase the police line equipment A.3120.200 by $89,696.97, and increase the state aid budget line A.3389 by the same amount, $89,696.97, for other public safety funds under the police. So I just want to make sure that's reflected.
Okay. We already had someone made the motion, someone seconded it already, right? Liz?
No, no second.
Trustee Rosenberg? All in favor?
You need a second. Oh,
You
oh, I was the second, I'm sorry.
Passes unanimously. Action item number 4 is to consider a resolution to allow the police department to purchase 2 new vehicles. We have a memo from the chief dated July 15th, 2024, where he outlines that one vehicle has over 80,000 miles, the other one has over 97,000 miles. This money has already been budgeted, and we're going to purchase 2 Ford hybrid police Interceptor all-wheel drive vehicles. Is there a motion to authorize the purchase of these vehicles? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Action item number 5 is to consider a resolution to accept a $10,000 grant funding from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority for the purchase of electric equipment for the Department of Public Works. So is there a motion to accept this grant? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosen-Asher, all in favor? That passes unanimously. I think we already bought some stuff with this, right?
Yes, the money came in and we spent it before they changed their minds.
I just will point out these last 2 items are just important in terms of the village moving to become more sustainable overall and respecting the environment.
What did we buy with it?
Yeah, so for the $10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought a lot of DPW equipment to replace gas equipment with electric.
Things like electric
It's like,
blowers,
weed whackers.
chainsaw, weed whackers.
Concrete cutter, I believe.
Excellent.
So things that were loud and very polluting are being replaced.
Okay.
Electric lawnmower, yes.
Okay, action item number 6 is to consider a resolution to award the bid for the sidewalk projects on Wall Grove Avenue and Washington Avenue. Now, Trustee Patino, if you could, didn't you walk this once and study this?
Yeah, so this, from a couple of years ago, when it first came up, I mean, there's a number of issues that I had concerns about, similar concerns to neighbors, and, you know, other, CAB had similar concerns, tree commission. And, you know, there are, I think, 6 healthy, mature trees along that route that would have to be removed in order to put in the sidewalk. I had proposed some sort of a traditional walking path that would not be called or considered a sidewalk. It would be, you know, we could use some kind of stone paver or gravel or something like that that would provide something off-street, but wouldn't require us to remove all the trees, dig big holes, pour concrete, et cetera. For the most part, that was not looked upon favorably for reasons that have to do with like sidewalk requirements. You know, if we ask an engineer if you can do that kind of sidewalk, the answer is always going to be no. So that's where that proposal ended. I still think it's a good idea. I personally walk that street probably once a day. I walk my dog down that way and I loop around to the Spoilers Run path. I walk on, you know, when there are cars on the road, I walk on the neighbors' front lawns. I have never once had anyone, you know, say or look at me funny. So, you know, I think it's a nice tree-lined street, and we're gonna eliminate that for a small amount of sidewalk for a lot of money. You know,
There's
Mike,
two,
you want to
um,
comment? Matt, you want to comment on what you?
Yeah, so, you know, the reason that this was originally proposed was that there are 2 reasons. One, an immediate reason, one a sort of longer-term reason. The immediate reason was there have been near contacts between kids going to school, particularly well, kids going to school and automobiles. And there is a desire to have more sidewalks, a complete sidewalk network around Dobbs Ferry generally. What a complete sidewalk network means is, unless you're going to spend a lot more money and do all of these things at once, you do them opportunistically. Some of them are done when a house is being built or redeveloped and the building department makes as a requirement, or the planning board makes as a requirement, you must add sidewalks where there are none currently in order to complete the project. One that everybody may be aware of that is also sort of an island of sidewalk is on Broadway across from the Alcott School. Those 2 buildings that went up several years ago, there's sidewalk there, but they don't connect to anything. And the idea is that they don't connect to anything now, but as more renovation work happens over time, they will start to fill in and connect and become part of a network. And if you don't do that now, you're faced with are we going to spend $1 gazillion and build a whole network at some point in the future? So that's the longer term reason. You know, personally, I find the argument about removing mature trees compelling. Like, it's not something to do lightly, and as much of an advocate for, you know, for taking steps to improve pedestrian safety as I am, I'm very conflicted about this. So, you know, but I also, and this is a question for the village administrator, because this has been, part of this $253,000 is grant money that came from the state, and the reason that it's been 2.5 years or so since this project was approved, that it's taken for us to get to the bid, is because it got hung up in the state. And there's a Washington Avenue component of it, and there is a Walgrove component of it. The Walgrove component is an existing sidewalk that is in disastrously bad repair, and is a clear and present danger to anybody, any of the students third grade and up who are walking along Walgrove, or parents of younger kids walking along Walgrove. So my question is, like, if we were to do as Mr. Harris asked, and, you know, and reconsider the Washington Avenue component of this, is the grant money for Walgrove, are the two projects so intrinsically tied together that if we didn't do Washington, we would have to not do Walgrove as well?
I'd have to check with the grantor to see what the conditions are. And again, with the contractor who bid on that full lump sum of work, maybe he'd come back and say he would have bid differently or not bid at all.
Right.
So those questions have to be answered.
So, I mean, I would personally favor holding this over and getting the answers to those questions and doing a little bit more conversing about it, because I don't take, I want you to understand, I don't take the destruction of healthy trees at all lightly. I'm less concerned about the neighbors' proprietary interests in their frontage. But no, I know. But I do take the tree impact seriously, and so I would like to be able to think about that and understand whether we can pull those two projects apart in some way.
Yeah, can I just say also, I mean, I don't want to cut down trees that don't need to be cut down either, but, you know, Walgrove is unsafe and it leads to Springhurst, and there are kids and families walking on that street every single day, and if we have the opportunity, I don't want to lose the opportunity that we've been waiting for all this time. They are in very bad shape, and it's a very high pedestrian area. So it's nice to look at trees, and I don't mean to be like sarcastic about it, but when we're talking about kids walking to school, and, you know, I live around the corner from there, and there's people there every single day. Those sidewalks need to get fixed. So I really do want to find what the condition is for separating them and exploring alternatives, because I too walk on Washington and I have almost been hit by a car a couple of times because I have my headphones in and I'm not listening, and there's no opportunity for me to walk on a sidewalk. So I'd like to find out what the conditions are, but I don't want to delay the Walgrove run any more than we've already delayed it. You know, it's been delayed. Yeah.
It has been delayed for 2.5 years, yes.
By the state.
By the
right?
state.
Yeah.
To be clear.
I'm also, you know, I have my doubts about it as well. So if you can clarify that information, that would be very helpful. Do you want to say anything, Nicole?
Make some sort of,
Let's see what Nicole has to say about anything. Maybe you don't. Okay, Larry?
I would just ask, Rob, that you also just make sure that we're maintain compliance with the grants. Some of them have fuses, so we want to make sure we're mindful of that as we manage this process. But Walgrove is clearly more important than Washington if you were prioritizing one over the other. And whether there's a better solution for Washington, I don't know.
Matt, you wanted to add something?
yeah, I'm wondering if there's a way that we can, rather than wait, you know, a month and 4 days till we meet again, because that'll be right on top of the school year. Whether we can sort of, I don't know, provisionally authorize the signing of these contracts pending Rob understanding what the linkages are between them.
I would say no at this particular, I mean, I wouldn't be the way I would go on this.
It's also not enough time.
There are a lot of
In that
to get it
case,
done.
Not getting done.
Yeah.
in that case, it won't get done this school year, so
Right.
that's not an acceptable outcome.
So are you okay then with putting it over until they look at it?
No, if
You wanna-
the
you
risk,
wanna vote
if the
on
risk
this?
is that Walgrove doesn't get done, it needs to get done.
So you want to go forward with it?
Rob, you've supervised a lot of projects.
These are the questions that need to be answered by the grantor authority. So again, whether we delay it, will that stop the job completely on both? I don't know yet. I'll ask those pointed questions and I'll get back to you in the morning.
But I think,
But that doesn't give us an if we don't pass this tonight, are we not passing
Right, then revisit.
Walgrove until August 27th, which is a week before the school year begins.
Well, it's, I mean, at least based on my experience.
Are there
and
anyone?
You're much more experienced than I am. Rob, you're much more experienced than I am. The prospect of this being done before you get into winter and it becomes a problem to do weather-wise, I would guess this is at best going to be late fall, but more likely in the spring.
Right, so it's always better to do groundwork, concrete work during warmer weather. They do have additives for concrete that can take into, again, if we have a better mild winter, we can go right into December.
So is the schedule for this not this summer immediately anyway?
Well, again, if, I have to find out from the grantor if this has to be spent by any specific time.
No, but
If it
but
has to
No,
be
he's just
extended.
There's a
asking, could the
different
work
question.
actually get done?
If
That's what
if we
Can the work
approve
get
this
done?
now,
Uh-huh.
is there any way that that the Walgrove sidewalk would be done
done.
before
School.
school starts? And I mean, I can't say for certain, but I don't think there's any possible
in
way.
that case,
And you're gonna wind up
It
paying.
hasn't been, the bid hasn't been accepted yet, right? So this isn't on the contract.
So they have to do that, they have to, like, the contract has to be drawn up, negotiated, the funds have to be allocated, they have to mobilize, they have to tear up the sidewalk, like, it's
School
not
starts
gonna
in
happen
6
in a
weeks.
month.
So then let's wait.
I mean, I don't know,
Until we have-
unless you heard otherwise, I just don't see how.
I mean, maybe I'm too positive thinking, but it can be done. It's only sidewalks.
It can be done if we
Not to
were to
minimize it.
municipality. Like, if it was a private, but we could build a sidewalk in a week, but that.
Right,
not
I
how
mean, the
anything
contract
works
is
around
ready,
here.
we bid it out, we got
Right, it's like the
the
contract's
engineer,
ready,
the engineer already recommended it.
Right.
The money's there, again,
Right.
it's
It's
just
not like we're waiting
ripping out
for
So
sidewalk
then
and putting back.
I mean, I don't know, like I said,
When does school start?
Labor,
The day
day
after
after
Labor
Labor
Day.
Day. in
I'll
6
tell you what, if you
weeks.
got an answer sooner and we
Right.
need to do this earlier, we could do we could have an emergency.
An emergency meeting.
We could
All right,
go-
yeah.
Which if we have an emergency meeting, it will be noticed. So there'll be a chance for people.
I understand that we need, there are rules and we have to go to the grantor and ask. I just hope that if the answer is you have no opportunity to revisit this at this point, then I think rather than I hope we will take the approach of advocating for ourselves through our state representatives and others to try to advocate for what we really, if it is the decision of the board that right now we don't want to do this chunk of Washington, because that was an inherited decision from a few years ago, and considerations have changed or whatever it is, then I hope that we will, continue to advocate to be able to accomplish what our policy goals are around this and not not just take,
I'll get
if
back to
it's
those
like,
options.
no, from the get-go, I understand it might be easier to just say, no, the grant is what it is, hopefully there might be another angle that we could take to try to advocate for, because other considerations have come to light. And significant time has passed since the grant was initially issued due to no fault of the village, from what I understand, so.
I'll explore those and get back to the
Very
board.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have to do anything to, I could just say we're just holding aside, okay.
And Mr.
Action
Mayor, can I just acknowledge, Mr. Rosencrantz submitted a letter from resident Jerry Cipriano dated today regarding her concerns about the removal of 6 majestic trees to make way for concrete, which I will scan and email to y'all tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Okay, action item number 7 is to consider a resolution authorizing the village administrator to enter into a retainer agreement with Capital Markets Advisors. So I think this is something that we've done in the past. Jeff, maybe you can shed some light on it?
Yeah, this is, excuse me, this is who I work with when we sell debt for the village. And we've worked with them. They've been around longer than I've been here. I'm almost 10 years now. So we had a cooperative RFQ with surrounding municipalities, surrounding villages. And it seems like, most of them are going to stick with CMA, and our recommendation is to stick with CMA.
Okay, so is there a motion to authorize the village administrator to execute a retainer agreement with Capital Market Advisors to provide financial advisory services to the village of Dobbs Ferry commencing immediately through May 31st, 2025? Trustee Taylor? Second, you did, right?
Yeah, I took it back, though.
You don't,
Because I'm in this business, I think I'm going to recuse myself. I'm not in directly this business, but because I'm licensed in this security.
I'll step up for Larry.
Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Galen, all in favor, one abstention. Action item number 8 is to consider a resolution, let's just do it this way. Is there a motion to approve the request for a block party from Jessica Fluger for 11 Overlook Road on September 7th, 2024? Trustee Galen, second trustee Rosenberg, all in favor, that's unanimous. Is there a motion to approve a request for block party from Shu Hoi Kwek at 12 Meadow Way on September 7th, 2024? Trustee Sullivan, second trustee Rosen Asher. Is there a motion to, oh, this is something a little bit more involved. Action item number 10. Is there a motion to authorize a license for encroachment improvements and removal of public trees from the village right-of-way in connection with the site plan improvements for property located at 125 Bel Air? Dan Posen, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm not exactly sure what the license agreement is for, but typically that allows the property owner to use a portion of village land in connection with their property. It's typically revocable by the board for any reason. If the property is needed for any municipal purpose and you want to take it back, you can.
Okay.
My memory of this, because I drive or walk by it frequently, is that this is for a homeowner to be able to stabilize and landscape part of their front yard after having done renovations on the house. It's an area of Bel Air, if anybody looks at it on Google Maps, where it does not appear visually or otherwise to impede any village business or other residents. I think this was presented to us.
Yeah, it was.
Several meetings ago.
It was, but there was,
And they're not unusual, license agreements of this nature.
Wanted to say something, Mike? Or no?
yeah, I mean, this was the application where the applicant was sort of arguing about the tree code as part of his site plan application. And there isn't really, like, there's this license agreement, but it doesn't, there's no site plan included, there's no, I mean, we don't really know what he's doing. I mean, unless this was already.
Yeah, I don't know, but you're right, it should be shown, there should be a survey or a
photo.
I think the
plan,
plan,
or something that shows you where it was.
Niall Kane was the architect who worked on this. I'm pretty sure I remember this.
yeah, he was
Clearly.
here, he made a presentation.
He was here and made a presentation, but maybe we need that attached to the final resolution. We have to put it off a month. I don't know.
Say it
Well, there
was
was some
Niall?
dispute at that about with
Yeah,
his
he was-
position. His position was that he could be allowed to remove the trees and not replace them as part of the tree code. So I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is those trees being on part of public right of way, they're proposing to remove those and not follow that part of the code. I just don't know. There was some question at the time of the application. It was never clarified, and now we have this. And so I was hoping maybe there was some more information.
I think Lori, what's that?
How did this resolution come to us? What path did it take?
Typically, the application at the planning board would have been approved subject to the owner entering into a license agreement with the village, and that's why it would be coming to you guys.
So this is probably as a result of a referral from a requirement from the planning board?
Correct, correct.
Well, it seems like we need more
But I
information.
I think you ought to have a site plan or a survey or something to show you where it is, because that's, you know, the village needs to know how its property is being used, you know.
And that it's in compliance with
Right.
the tree code and everything else, right?
Yeah, I think it was approved by the planning board of certain details of it, but let's, want to get copies of it?
If there was a site plan approval, the planning board does look at all the tree-related issues as part of the site plan approval,
Yes.
and they get input from the tree commission and.
Right.
But where we left off at the last presentation there was some equivocal.
You're right, because it says here applicant shall submit a complete set of plans to the building department for final review and approval.
They always, that's
Do they?
always in there, yeah, it's just like the
Okay.
final permit set.
So what am I adjourning this for the site plan, for the planning board approval?
For more information and documentation on the application.
Okay, done.
Right.
Action item number 11 is to authorize the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department to purchase updated radio equipment. We have a memo from Assistant Fire Chief Giuliano explaining what they need. So let me just say, is there a motion to authorize the fire department to update their radio equipment and with the purchase of the necessary equipment from Motorola Solutions in the amount of $24,135.57. Trustee Galen, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That's unanimous. Action item number 12 is to consider a resolution authorizing a rain date. So we had a special meeting, I think it was July 9th, and we discussed and authorized having a dine out Dobbs for August 3rd. And after that meeting, we thought it would be a good idea to have a rain date. And I think Trustee Galen polled all the businesses and restaurants. They were in agreement with that. So.
The downtown committee did.
Downtown committee. So based upon their input, we are going to put forth a motion that would authorize the a rain date of August 4th, 2024. So is there a motion? Trustee Galen. Second. Trustee Rosenasher. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion to authorize the approval of the audit of claims as submitted and recommended by the village treasurer? Trustee Sullivan. Second. Trustee Rosenberg. All in favor? That passes unanimously. Do I have any objections if I waive the trustee reports, or do we?
I just want to, I just want to mention the webinar, that's it, real quick. Next Tuesday, there will be a webinar presented by the Westchester District Attorney's Office, the Division of Hate Crimes, in conjunction with the Westchester Human Rights Commission on bias and hate crimes and hate incidences, what the differences are, what to do, who to call. I've sat in on this presentation before. It's fantastic, and I hope that everybody will sign up. It is July 30th at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Trustee Rosen. Anybody else have anything that they have to say?
I just want to put a fine point on the Dine Out Dobbs event, August 3rd. The downtown committee is working incredibly hard to pull off this event on a really tight timeline in collaboration with the rec department. We're closing Main and Cedar down to Chestnut Street. There's going to be free parking down at 99 Cedar. Restaurants are going to be serving in the streets. There's going to be entertainment for kids. There's going to be some music. We're still ironing out all the details, but it should be a fantastic evening. So please save the date for Saturday, August 3rd, and plan to come out and support the businesses in the downtown.
Trustee Rosenberg, is there anything you want to say?
No, but I would like to ask that the webinar that Trustee Rosen Asher referred to, that the link to sign up be posted and sent around.
Certainly should be. It will be.
I sent it to everybody here. It's in the newsletter.
Oh, it's in the news, okay.
Trustee Taylor, anything you want to add? Trustee Patino, anything you want to add? I just want to thank the county executive, George Latimer. He had invited me to speak at a press conference that he has every week on July 15th. Trustee Rosen-Asher came down to offer support, which I appreciate, and I explained how beautiful our village is and what we're all about, and I invited everyone to go to all the restaurants in Dobbs Ferry, and it was very informative, and I want to thank him for that opportunity. And if there's nothing further, I'd like to take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? Meeting is adjourned.